if you think what you are doing is good, beautiful, keep doing it. You know,
Yeah.
people is gonna maybe tell you that you're not gonna make money with that. You should look for a different job, or that design doesn't work. Whatever. You know, it's nice to take criticism, but you also have to trust that what you're doing is what you want to do.
It's time for another episode of Best of the Tour. This is the show that takes you behind the scenes of your favorite gig posters, tour merch, and the artists who bring it all to life. Let's start the show.
This is episode number 16 of the Best of the Tour podcast, and we are sitting down today with the artist behind Subterranean prints, Lara Buhanda. Lara, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Hey, did a good job at pronouncing her last
Yes,
name.
that was perfect. That was
skills
perfect, actually.
are always in question.
Well, we're really excited. I think part of the excitement and the joy for us to do Best of the Tour is part of it is to introduce us and the other listeners and poster collectors, merch collectors to names that maybe we aren't quite as familiar with. Now, I was familiar with Subterranean prints, but like peeling back the curtain behind the artist that we, see the artwork by. This is part of the exciting thing that we love to kind of highlight here over on Best of the Tour. And so I'm very excited now. If you don't know, Lara goes by Subterranean_prints on Instagram. She has a huge Instagram following, 51,000 followers. So you're doing some awesome stuff, and people absolutely go crazy and love your work. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of from, the birth of being an artist in the gig space. And then we'll kind of get into conversations about the industry, what you're excited about now.
The merch. All the things.
Okay. So for me to end up doing a poster was kind of a natural process because I was always surrounded by friends who were playing in bands, but I don't play any instrument. Or actually, I play classic piano, which didn't fit with any of the punk bands of my friends. So I was kind of a bit pissed, that I couldn't play like a guitar or drums. But yes, a lot of my friends were playing in bands, and we were organizing concerts and touring already when we were very young. So it was just natural that someone had to print those t-shirts and small fanzines and some posters. So it was very natural to start doing that kind of work. And we were always hanging out in some squads where we had like a concert room or rehearsal room, stuff like that. And we always had a screen printing room just to print our own t-shirts, Especially t-shirts was like the big thing. T-shirts and patches was the big thing back then.
Oh, yeah.
So that's how I learned screen print very badly. I learned the very basics of screen print, and it just developed from there. So it was, for me, it was a very natural process to end up working with bands and making artwork for bands. Yeah.
That's exciting. Genre-wise, like, do you have like the bands that your friends were in? What kind of like genre of music was that?
Oh, we were punks for sure. I will say, yes. I mean, I'm not gonna say anything bad about my friends, but they could barely play instruments, But they back then. Now some of them are great musicians, but back then it was not the same.
It always starts out small, right?
It's how it is, DIY all the way. But it was great because, like I said, we were organizing concerts. So there is this huge network in Europe. I'm sure in the States it's the same, where bands move from city to city to play in the venues of their friends. And we had people coming from all over Europe, people coming from Germany or from Denmark, playing in our small venue there in Basque Country. So it was great because you start to meet people who is also interested in illustration or doing artwork for their own bands. It was a very natural, very organic process. So, yeah, I'm not saying it was as easy or coming out of nowhere, but the path was there and it was like easy to follow somehow.
Always kind of around it, right? In it and around it. And so you mentioned the word organic, just kind of grew up with it, I guess.
Yeah. I was also, since I was a I'm sorry, because the phone is a bit delayed. I'm sorry. I was going to
You're
tell
good.
you that since I was a kid, I was always doing something with my hands, like I will paint my own clothes. Since I was 10, 11 years old, I was already doing that kind of stuff. So there is like a combination of both things, like I already had like inclination to decorate my life a little bit. And then I found these people and yeah, it just happened.
Yeah, I noticed in the bio, it refers to you a few different times as DIY style illustrations. And that spoke to me because a lot of times what we'll talk about here in this space or in our other space, which is posters in every direction, we talk a lot about that sort of what we call fan made merchandise or fan-made art. Here in the States, we have, it's modeled largely off of the Grateful Dead, what they called their Shakedown Market, right? Shakedown Street song, and then expanding to Shakedown Street is this concept of a vendor market, right? By the fans and for the fans. And that's matriculated into a number of different bands here. I mean, we've seen it with Billy Strings pretty prominently, with Goose, here or there, a little bit with Dave Matthews Band, some stuff with Pearl Jam and things, but there is that fan element, of, I think, that passion for the music, for the band, wherever you find it, and then the desire to create something sort of around that space. Is that aligned with sort of what you mean when you say DIY style?
For me, DIY, it means that if nobody's doing what you want to see, just do it yourself.
Yes.
Of course, there are many bands that I love and I would love to create something for them because I have a specific vision of what their music transmits somehow.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I also understand that maybe those bands, they don't want to have me as a designer. That's also totally fine, But yes, with bands that I really love, I have very often I listen to a new record and I think, this would be great. I could fit something for that. I could make maybe this, I will make a design in this direction. Or I have some very almost not finished ideas, just like some feelings in my head of what I would like to do for them. So yeah, I think it's great when people wants to create something inspired by the music they love. It's great.
Color Haiku is back. Southern California's one-day marketplace for gig poster art, print culture, and the artists behind the work. This returns for its 4th year in a row, presented by Invisible Industries and hosted once again at GABA Gallery in the heart of Los Angeles. This is where the online obsession becomes real life. Go find top band posters for sale. Go meet the artists who create the work face to face. Color Haiku brings together established voices and emerging artists from across the region and beyond. A community that shows up to support independent artists, creative culture. If you've ever felt that rush at a show, if you've ever chased a limited edition poster drop online, this is where it all comes together. It's one day only, so don't miss it. This is Color Haiku. Find the details at colorhaiku.com. Do you have kind of that, like, almost that pathway where you heard a song or you have a band you follow and then you had an idea, you created it, and then you reached out to the band and you were like, you need to make this because this is so amazing?
Yeah, it has happened like that. It happens, I mean, when you create something new, it can go in many different directions. Sometimes a band I love comes like, hey, Lara, can you do something for us? And then I freeze, I panic, and nothing happens because I like them so much. And then I feel the pressure and I'm like, oh, I wanted to do something great and nothing. And some other times it's just very easy and it kind of flows naturally. So it can go in any direction, anytime, okay? But I remember, for example, the last poster I made for Full of Hell, it came out that way because I had this illustration and I was just making it because I really wanted to draw that thing. It was not designed for any band specific. I was just making it in that moment of my life. And then I saw that they were coming to play in Europe. And I thought, fuck, this is perfect for them. This fits their music, it's gritty. It has this. So I showed it to them and they were like, yeah, sure, we love it. Please print it.
Cool.
That's awesome.
So, but sometimes it happens like that and that's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you keep that all locked in your memory, or do you have like a sketchbook that you keep of those sort of like, incubator ideas of like, hey, here's some cool thoughts that I'd love to get to someday?
Well, this gives me huge anxiety sometimes because I have a tendency to keep everything in my head and then it's just too messy, and I'm gonna forget it. I have this idea, I will never make it. I don't know where to put it. So I make lists all the time. I write constantly. I also sketch on my iPad, and I have just open sketches there that they will never become anything, maybe yes. But especially I write down because I really love the idea of making lists and writing down ideas.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, I have this constant feeling like I don't have enough time to draw everything I want to draw, or like but that's okay, you know. That's like someone who buys a lot of records or a lot of books and you will never read them all. It doesn't matter, you know. You have a lot of ideas and that's great, and maybe some of them will happen, some of them will stay there. It's okay.
I think that's a wonderful outlook. It's sort of like, generate all the ideas and some percentage of them will come to fruition. And I saw a little bit of that looking at your shop on Subterranean Prints website, that sort of the variety of merchandise that you offer is awesome. I think it's great. There's obviously the gig posters, which is like our main focus. I think we've talked about this too, as sort of like the gig poster draws you in, it brings you to the merch stand. But I'm always one, like, I love looking for all those little tiny things that are different. Like we were at a Pearl Jam show in last May, and it was our first time at just Pearl Jam. I'd been to a festival years ago, but one of the things they had were these little like medallions or tokens that you could wear around like a chain or on a bracelet or whatever. And people were going bananas for these little tokens. They all, limited edition, one for each show. They wanted to collect them. And I was like, what a cool idea and a way to like take a memento with you and wear it. And I know the enamel pin game has gotten very big, like I would say almost as big as posters in some senses. I saw you do some enamel pin work on your website. Do you like working in that medium?
Okay, I have always like confronted feelings about this because I don't want to become a supermarket. That's something that I always keep in mind, you know, because when it comes to merch, you can produce anything. You can have caps, lighters, posters, t-shirts, of course.
Yeah.
So I always try to, I don't have so much stuff like, okay, let me try to explain myself. I have things that I like, that I use, you know. I love pins, I love patches, I have some prints, and I have some t-shirts. And if something comes around, I was thinking, for example, maybe to make some notebooks because I use them a lot. But I try to do things that I like more than thinking, oh, this is going to sell. I have to produce more merchandise because I don't want to run a supermarket. What I want to do is to keep drawing and designing things that I love. So I think for me, it's important to find that balance, you know, between creating merch that is beautiful, that I love, that people might want to wear or use. And I'm very grateful for that. But I don't want to end up printing my stuff everywhere, you know, towels and curtains and stuff like that. Because it can happen, you know, it can happen easily. So.
No big foam fingers coming anytime soon or anything like that.
But there's an authenticity with that, right? Because I think a lot of times, you know, art for us, obviously it's very subjective, right? But like art, we line our walls with the art that from the shows we love, the bands we love, and the artists we love. And for us, you know, I mean, there's only so much wall space, right? Yeah. These 18 by 24 prints are big. And when we have the opportunity as collectors to put something else into the rotation that is a little bit more unique, like, I mean, we love t-shirts. Like it is one of our favorite things to pick up at the shows.
And you've gotten really into patches lately.
I've gotten really into patches lately. And like to the point where I'm like, I've been scouring eBay to find the best like jacket, like a jean jacket, like a, you know, vintage or something. But it had to have enough surface that I could, you know, and watching videos on how to essentially, you know, sew a patch onto a jacket. And I love that because it's just, it's another little thing that's like a collectability of it. But the authenticity where I'm going with this is like, I like something that not everybody's going to have. I like something that is limited in quantity, right? You're not out there putting your art on coffee mugs that are like in every store and grocery store and shop in town. But when somebody asks you about it, right? Like I want something that someone's going to ask me like
conversation piece.
Yeah, like either wow, that's a really cool patch or that's a cool t-shirt or what's the story about it? that way we can turn it into something that's more than just the tactile object that I've picked up along my travels.
It's funny because now that we are talking about this idea is coming. I never thought about it so much, but I think the merch that I'm putting out, it has to do also with the identity. Like I said, I'm coming from punk and metal background, so it's very common to have the patches or your favorite bands on your t-shirt. You have the pins for your leather jackets, So, and the t-shirts of your bands. So those are the merch items that I feel comfortable with because I grew up with them, I had my own patches when I was a teenager and the pins and your favorite t-shirt, So I think that's why I feel comfortable with those merch items more than producing phone cases or stuff like that. That it feels a bit like selling out a little bit, like putting your art in any plastic surface you can find. Yeah, I don't think I like the idea.
Yeah, it wouldn't be very punk. It wouldn't be very punk or metal to have your custom iPhone case at the merch booth, right? It'd be a little different.
I don't know. Maybe one day I see someone doing them and I think, wow, those are very cool. Maybe I want to try it. But so far, I think I just made these items because they are the ones that I feel familiar with or more comfortable with them. Yeah.
Yeah. And you talked a little bit about the being a fan and then creating the art as a fan. What kind of keeps you inspired sort of outside of the outside of the gig poster world? I think I talked a little bit before we hit record that you're out of kind of your hometown where you usually are and you've gone somewhere to take a little bit of time to be in nature. Is that something that you try to do to stay inspired or to just get out of the sort of day-to-day box that work corner bed chair kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Actually, this is for me, nature is the biggest inspiration. There is no doubt about it. Even when I'm designing for metal bands, I always joke about it, but most of the time I'm drawing birds. That's what I love. I love to see birds. I have my binoculars and I go out in a mountain looking for birds. And I love picking mushrooms. I love knowing the plants that grow around me. I'm very curious when it comes to nature, I want to see the animals. I want to identify them. So I'm a bit nerdy when it comes to this. And that's, for me, the biggest inspiration when it comes to make a design. What I always try to do, you can draw a bear and it's beautiful, but I always try to add a twist, a little bit of a dark twist. I think many, many years ago, a friend of mine told me this, but when you add a twist to a poster or to a design, you have to stop to understand it, if you see the drawing of a bear, it's a beautiful bear. But if you see something that is a bit off, like there is smoke coming out of the eyes, or if the bear is holding something that is not supposed to hold, it gives you a moment of, what's going on there? And now I understand. It has a different narrative, So I very often use nature as inspiration, and then I try to always add something there. I love to find meaning. Very often I also realize that people maybe ask me to explain them, why did I make an illustration? And I'm not so good explaining myself with words. That's why I made the illustration, So yeah, I don't know. For a while, for example, I was always using birds that were entangled with ropes, Why do you do that? It makes sense, For me, it totally makes sense, A bird has a representation of freedom and beauty and nature and is entangled with these ropes. I don't know how to put it in words. I think this illustration speaks for itself, So, but I think I'm digressing a bit. But nature is my main focus.
Yeah, but that's the thing about we really have to take this out of just that it's, posters that we get at concerts, or it is art. This is a subjective image for us, and we are gonna make an analysis of the artwork through kind of our experiences and the lens that we're looking at the world through right now at that moment. And for me, when it is something that I have to, like you said, you have to pause, you have to take a moment and stop and look at it and go, okay, let me peel back and think, what am I thinking about when I'm viewing a bird with a rope, or, image of some sort of kind of apocalyptic thing or something just unique and different. And then I like to create stories in my mind, which is, I think sometimes we talk to artists and I'm like, this is what I thought of. And the artists are like, wow, that's so unique. I never even thought that like, that's not what I thought.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I love being able to be a collector in that space, because we're just going to look and say, okay, this is what I think, this is how I love it, and this is what I feel, like how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's this concept of, I think it's the autonomy of art, or the autonomy. I've heard about art. I've heard about music as well. I heard Jack White talk on it from the White Stripes, and he was talking about his song Seven Nation Army, and
Mm-hmm.
how when he wrote that song, he never had any intent for it to be this like great anthem that it is now at like sporting events, you know. But he said, you know, that's sort of the autonomy of music, that once it's out there, like once you've kind of given birth to it as the artist or as the musician, now it's sort of out there in the space for everybody else to interpret and you know, what does it mean to them, how does it impact them.
Yeah.
And I think that when you say that you like to cause that pause, right, that duality between like freedom of the bird and, you know, chained up or tied up by the ropes or whatnot, I think that sparks a lot of sort of opportunity to freely think and be, you know, moved by a piece of art and how
Yes.
it reflects what you're going through personally.
Yes, and I mean, each piece. I mean, whatever was my intention when I create an illustration, it's not going to translate in the feelings that you are going to get from that illustration. You know, so your interpretation is super valid. It's as valid as mine. You know, once you create something, you put it out there, and then it's for people to take it, to like it or not like it. You don't have to make a huge study about it. Sometimes you look at a piece and you think, this is beautiful, I want it because it makes me feel joy or whatever. It doesn't matter, you know. So I think that's also very beautiful, and it creates like this communication between people. Like you said, sometimes I get messages, or especially when I'm at festivals or concerts, that I can speak directly with people. I love this kind of interaction because sometimes people come with very, very nice interpretations, or they tell me stories that I never even thought about, you know? So yeah, I love it. It's great. It's great.
Have you had much occasion, Lara, to get like a gig, you know, for a poster or whatnot with a band that you maybe don't necessarily know so well or don't follow? And then how do you create there? Do you plug into the music to listen a little bit to some of their catalog and get kind of a feel for the vibe, or tell us about that?
Yes, that's a tricky situation, but it happens often, especially when I take commissions for bands. Because if I'm making gig posters, it's very often that maybe I contact a band that I know, or they contact me because we have worked together before. But when I'm open for commissions, when I'm making merch design, maybe t-shirts or album covers, can be anybody, you know. So I try to work with bands that I like. I don't need to know you, but I will play your music a little bit to see where it goes. I also have this policy, like I don't work with homophobic, racist, bigotry, fascist. All this kind of stuff is out of my plate. So that I make very clear before starting to work with a band. And then I don't need to especially like your music. It's fine, you know. I can work with bands that I don't love the music, or but it has to have something, you know. I don't know how to explain it. There has to be a little bit of a connection. So I will check them online a little bit. I will listen to whatever music they have online. Yeah. Then what I do, I think one of the good things about not knowing the bands is that you kind of don't fall into cliches. That's, for example, because if I have a band that is playing, I don't know, metalcore, and I'm not a huge fan of metalcore, but they want me to do something for them, it's going to be an interpretation that maybe they are not used to, and it might work, you know. Sometimes this clicks very well because there is like a new point of view for their design. Maybe they are used to black and white, gritty stuff, and I come with something new, more colorful. So it's nice to work with bands that I actually don't know. I just check them a little bit, I listen to the records, and it works.
I think that hits it right on the head. I mean, from my perspective as somebody that for years I've stood in the merch line, you know, I've looked for the poster. I get excited like the kid on Christmas morning for like, what's the poster going to be tonight, you know? And to your point, there's whatever band you might follow, whether it's Grateful Dead or Metallica or Pearl Jam or Dave Matthews Band or a punk band, whoever, they have their sort of core, you know, like mascots or icons or tropes, you know? And those are always fun. I think they're fun to see reinterpreted, or hey, how is this artist going to do a skeleton, or whatnot. But what I like even more is exactly what you're saying, Lara, which is that fresh take. What's the fresh perspective? What's the thing that we haven't seen before from a trope or an icon that like blows our mind and is like, whoa, that is a cool, really cool idea. Yeah. Or even taking the trope but reimagining it in a way, that we haven't necessarily seen before.
Yeah, especially, I mean, there are, for example, bands that are very iconic. I'm thinking, today I just saw a poster of Descendant, and they have this guy with the glasses. It has to be there, but you can always try to make your own interpretation of that subject. But then when it comes to bands like, I don't know, how many new designs can you make for Pearl Jam? They have thousands of posters at this point, So I think when I'm faced, I never made anything for Pearl Jam, but when I'm faced with a design for a band that already has a lot of graphic work, I try not to look at it. For example, I try not to look too much into the work that has been done for them before, because it's very easy to fall into that same. So it's again a balance thing, You want to keep the personality of the band there, because if it's a doom metal band, they have like a specific aesthetic. But it's nice to do your own thing about it. So sometimes it happens to me if I'm a bit stuck and I start to look, because I make my own research online, and I start to look at previous designs that they have, you might end up doing something that looks very much like a previous design they had, because, so yeah.
You've been sort of influenced by that previous art.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens.
Do you find, and we talked a little bit about, Mike said, this concept when you started, you were painting your own clothing and learning the screen print and kind of from like learning the skills from the ground up, so to speak. Yeah. Do you think that your younger self, like what kind of maybe advice could you provide to somebody who is maybe starting off, especially as a woman in the gig and sort of, music world, art music world? What kind of advice maybe could you provide that, like, think about like your younger self? What could you tell your younger Lara self to also then like line up with newer artists who are kind of trying to break into the industry now?
Well, I have the corny version and the not so corny version. So the corny version is, you have to trust yourself. If you think what you are doing is good, beautiful, keep doing it. People is gonna maybe tell you that you're not gonna make money with that. You should look for a different job, or that design doesn't work. Whatever. It's nice to take criticism, but you also have to trust that what you're doing is what you want to do. Because I made a lot of turns, and my family told me, "Oh, you should study at university." I went to university. I was working in an office job. I did these things, and they didn't work. I ended up doing what I thought I would end up doing. So it's okay to trust yourself a bit more and be a bit stubborn and try. And the not so corny advice is that you just have to work. You have to practice. If you want to play guitar, you have to play guitar every day. If you want to illustrate, or if you want to work, and I don't consider myself a good illustrator per se. I have so much to learn. I never went to art school. I didn't have a formal education. And still today, I write to friends or people I know, like, how do you work this shadow? How do you make a perspective like this? Because I don't have the education. So just keep working and keep doing it. And if you keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, at some point, it might work. I don't have the answer, but that's what I did. I didn't want to do anything else. So I just did this all the time until it happened. Sorry to stupid.
I love that. I think we need like that as a clip, and like it needs to be like a mantra for me all the time. I mean,
trust yourself.
I've been noodling, I say, with guitar for probably, I don't know, 20 years or so, maybe 25 years now, on and off. But I've gotten very comfortable at this age, in my late 40s, we'll just say, approaching half century. But I've gotten very comfortable with exactly what you said. Just work at it every day. Just play with it. John Mayer, I think, said it's called playing for a reason, and I was like, that resonated with me. It's supposed to be fun to stay with it and just kind of keep keep working, keep doing it, because that's where the development comes from.
There is not other answer. But when I look at my first jobs, I was not living out of this at all. And I can look at them now and I see elements, I see, oh, yeah, this is what I was trying to do, but I didn't know how to do it. But I was trying.
Yeah.
And now 10 years later, I'm doing it, I didn't know how to make this composition and now I can do it. I didn't know how to. So practice is what counts at the end, If you want to do something, you have to practice. That is the only way.
Practice makes perfect.
Practice.
I don't know perfect, but perfect makes it.
If you're like me and Erica, you love passing out stickers while attending concerts with friends, making new friends. Where do you get these stickers? Look no further than stickerrobot.com. They are renowned for the highest quality sticker printing on the planet, world famous, custom outdoor silkscreen sticker printing, free US shipping, and we have a promo for you. If you visit stickerrobot.com/invisible, you will receive 10% off your next high quality screen printed sticker order. So act fast.
Going right now.
Right now.
Right now. And also, thanks to our friends over at the Rock Poster Society. If you don't know TRPS, they are a nonprofit behind the world's longest-running rock poster collection shows. That includes the Festival of Rock Posters in San Francisco, which is a bucket list thing for Mike and I to go to. They have been championing the art of poster for decades. They support both the artists and those people who collect them and preserve them. If you want to get involved, go over to trps.org if you want to become a member and check out their upcoming events.
Check them out.
I think now, we've got a couple young kids or youngish kids, and I kind of see this era of this desire to just be like perfect that first time, right? Like if it doesn't come easy, then we have this tendency, I think, as humans, maybe us our generation, maybe a little bit more grit, right? Because it's sort of like we just, we kind of power through. But this new younger generation, I'm hopeful because, your words of like, if you have a passion for something and you have a desire to do something, like just do it, like keep going forward. And I think that is going to be so important, especially in the arts, especially in the tactile arts. I think we're going to need more people to not be like, I got to do this and I got to go this pathway that is sort of like standard society, what the world is telling you to do. And we need the artists and we need the musicians and we need the people that are the outliers to say, you know what? No, that path, that like box does not work for me. Because I think that's what's going to keep our humanity, I think, in check through all the things that we're all going through. I mean, you're over, across the pond from us. We're here in America. I think that there's a need now for people to take things that they're passionate about.
Yeah.
And like
absolutely.
make it a reality versus.
Well, it helps, I think, spawn innovation too. It's that I'm sure Lara, as in your early days, probably right. There was probably a fair amount of innovation with how to screen print, how to get the art onto the T-shirt, and how to get it out there.
Experiment and try and learn and fail. I was thinking now when you were talking about AI, for example, people wants to put some prompt in a computer and come out with a finished artwork. And to be honest, the final product is not so important, I wouldn't change the last 10, 15 years for a perfect AI image. I don't care about that so much. Of course, it's nice to see your final work and be proud of it. But what makes you proud of your work is the learning curve, the process that you took, when you finally see it and you think, oh, now the printing now is really good because I managed to mix the colors like I wanted to mix them after trial and error and all this. So the process is beautiful. I would rather watch a band sounding like shit in a basement than listening to any AI music in the world, because that people is trying, and they are experimenting and they are doing something new for them, So I think the process is the really beautiful part of this whole thing.
Yeah, that really hit that's the hot takeaway right there, I think. Because we've talked about AI on the podcast before, and it's a hot topic. It's on everybody's mind, I think. But what you just said, I think, is a real fresh perspective. That forget about the output, forget about the finality of the product, because we've talked at length about how you punch in a code to a computer and it spits out an image, and well, what is that? it's just kind of soulless. It's sparkless. From the consumer perspective, we don't really have an interest in buying that. From the artist and the producer perspective, they don't have an interest in producing it. So, hey, band partners, hope y'all are listening. And I think they are. I think the community is listening.
Yeah.
Like, AI doesn't really have a good solution here, right? It doesn't fit. It's like a square peg in a round hole. But what you said, Lara, I think is a real fresh perspective, that we talking about the output, we're kind of losing the focus on the process, and that there's beauty in that process. There's, like you said, fail forward in that process. Some of the best stuff comes through having to innovate and push through those failures.
Yeah.
So I
And
think
it's also,
that focus on the process piece.
it's also cool, like when you start something new and you don't have all the latest technology, doesn't matter. You can start with something. I started screen printing in a basement on a kitchen table, and it worked. It was not the best quality, but it
Yeah.
worked, it was good. And I didn't have this machine, so I invented something else. And I didn't have the right paint, so I was using wall paint to screen print, and still it works. So all this process is very fun, and it's very nice to find yourself with a limitation and how to go over that limitation, because you really want to have the final result. You really want to achieve something specific, So it's
Yeah.
fun. Also about
That-
the
We've
AI.
been-
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, to that point, we've been podcasting now for about 3 years, and we're still kind of learning our space. Like, we've got almost 70 episodes at Posters in Every Direction. This is episode 16 of Best of the Tour. And I think we've gotten audio a lot better, and we have some folks working with us. We're trying to figure out video, though, but we're in that journey. We're in the process, right?
And sometimes you hit record and you just go.
Yeah.
And I think you talked about this a little bit earlier about creating merch and creating art and things that you love, that you want as, yourself. And there's that authenticity to it. And I think, in this day and age of technology and always trying to go faster and better and this and that, more efficient, I think in the art space, I mean, the bands, the artists, and us as the fans, we must demand that we keep the humanity in our art.
Yeah.
That we need to protect that because there's not just it's the lesson in the learning, it's the lesson in the failing. And for us as, parents, or if you are, a parent figure, role model for somebody in this space, to be able to learn that the best moments come out of the failing kind of season, that, you need to be able to get back up, so to speak.
Persevere.
Yeah, I also think it's important to point out that art, either good or bad, music, better or worse, what it creates is a human connection. I wouldn't be speaking to you guys if I was not making posters, good, bad posters. It doesn't matter, and you collect them, and now we are having this conversation, which is great. But in many aspects, the world right now is not in the best place, and a lot of shit is going on. So it's nice to have a point to connect, because very often when I speak with colleagues of mine, and I also have these feelings very often, what am I doing? The world is burning down and I'm here drawing a bird. Is this really has any meaning? Well, it has a meaning, because it allows a space to have a conversation, to communicate. Of course, it would be great to sell it for tons of money and be able to make a living and pay my rent. But if we go to the very basics of this, music, art in any form, cinema, it helps us feel like we are humans, So, AI, whatever, they want to put it down our throats, but there is no human connection there. I don't care about your AI art. I don't have nothing to say about it. I want things made by a person. I want to know why that person was doing that and how it feels, It would be great to know what Metallica feels playing in a big stadium, and it's also nice to speak with a band after they play in a small venue and they are happy because the audience was there and all that, So I think that's also it's very nice. I think it's important. That's at the end, that's I don't know. It makes me happy at least, It makes me, I said before, when I go to a festival and people comes to the stand, and a lot of people come hey, I don't have any money to buy anything, but this is great, And that's amazing. And we can have a conversation and they tell me which bands they love or the concert they are looking forward, so that's great.
Yeah, it's like you
Happy.
said, that human connection,
Human connection.
that the friendship, the relationships that you build in the space that you're in, the community, whether it's, punk metal band or jam band or rock band, whatever it is, you find your people, you build relationships, you make friends,
Yeah.
and that's that human connection. And I think that's really a beautiful thing. Lara, before we kind of wrap up, where can our listeners find you and sort of explore more of your work and some of your different formats?
So you can find me online. Of course, you can find me in all the social media like Instagram, Facebook. I have to be there. I wish I didn't have to, but I
Yeah.
have to be there. So you can find me as Subterranean Prince over there. I also have my webpage, subterraneanprince.com. I also have a newsletter because for people who is not in social media, they can have a monthly newsletter. And that's online. And outside of the internet, this year, actually, I want to make more festivals because I have been enjoying the more human connection lately. So this summer, I will try to make several festivals, most of them in Germany, I have to say. But I will make Desert Fest in Berlin. I will make a Colossal Weekend in Denmark. I will make a couple of smaller festivals around Germany as well. So yeah, let's see. I hope to meet many new people over there. It's gonna be great.
And when you're at the festival, are you attending just as a fan to listen, or are you having a booth or vending?
No, I mean, when I mean going to more festivals, I mean putting my stand, and
Awesome.
I put a wall of posters behind me, and I have my small merch table there, and then people can come and we can chat a little bit. They can buy something if they want, and yeah, it's nice. It's very nice.
That's amazing. That's really fantastic to be able to, like you said, take it on the road, to connect with people. I think at the end of the day, that is going to be the most important thing, into this new year and kind of this new weird season of the world that we're in. More connection,
More
face to face,
more in person,
more music, more art.
Yeah.
And I think for the fans, we're probably going to pick up a few listeners that are already fans and followers of yours, Lara. So for those folks that are always looking for, a subterranean print that maybe was like hard to get, do you bring things with you to these shows like that maybe something from the archives that might be hard to track down?
Yeah, actually, I always have stuff that is not online because to have everything online sometimes is impossible, especially sometimes I have like misprints or posters that are slightly damaged, but they are perfect. And I cannot sell that online. You cannot receive something in your house that is not mint condition. But if you come to a festival, you can take a look and you might say, this is perfect for me. I love it. I want to have it. So yeah, I usually do that.
I'm a big fan of that and a big proponent of that. And we just had on a conversation with a friend of ours, Dave Clock, who's an artist, and he does some things that we have some pieces you may know of Dave. And I have this print that I got on eBay because it was one that I had wanted of his for a while for a band that we love. And long story short, it was hard to get, but I found a foil version on eBay. And for our listeners, you've probably heard this story, but I love it so much. And somebody was like, listen, I'm selling this print. It's been well loved.
Scratch and dent.
It's got damage. And there were pictures. You could see the creases. It looked like somebody almost folded it up or something.
Oh, wow.
But it was a foil version of a long sold out print. And they had the starting bid for $10. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. So I bid $10 and I won. And so I had to break it to Erica. I was like, listen, I'm getting a poster in the mail. It's a little banged up, but here's my theory is that like, if you're a baseball card collector, and you could get a Babe Ruth rookie card, but it was like a 2.4 out of 10, you'd still get that card. It would just, it would just hold a certain place in your collection. So I'm sort of,
that just means
I'm trying to be a big advocate for this, love your posters. Hey guys, even if they're not mint, right? Even if it's like an 8.1 out of 10,
you still put it on your wall.
You can still frame it up and love it. Absolutely. And like, you can get a gem copy later if you're so inclined. But I have a soft spot in my heart for the scratch and dents. I guess that's my point.
I'll tell you something. When I screen printing, not a lot, but some of them come with misprints that you cannot sell. And I keep them for myself because those are some of my favorite ones, because those are truly unique. maybe there is color
Truly-
missing in one corner, or maybe there is something going on that is not supposed to be there. I love them. So those are the ones that I keep for myself.
Real
true
one of a kind.
Yeah,
Jinx.
absolutely.
Jinx, buy me a Coke, right?
That's right. No, I think that's so exciting. And I think, we've talked to some artists that seems like a lot of times you are kind of, you're a solo entrepreneur. You're working by yourself. It's not like you mentioned going into having kind of your office corporate type jobs where you go in and you naturally see these people. But a lot of times, the artist role in the world that you live in can be isolated. So getting out and like connecting with not just other artists. I know you said you have a good network, which is amazing. And that's, I think, really important. But to be able to shake the hands of the fans, and for those fans to be able to pick up, like you said, something that might not be quote unquote online perfect. And this is exactly like what we were talking about earlier, is like, do the work, put it out there, create, and there is going to be something that someone is going to love exponentially, even though maybe you think it's not exactly the way that it was, but it was created the way that it had to be for that person to be able to want it and collect it.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
is amazing. Well, Lara, we're so excited to have you. Would love to connect and keep up with what's going on in your world, and for the listeners, please go and check out Lara online, or if you are over in Germany this summer, go find her at some of these amazing festivals. We'll kind of share, if you want to share where you're going to be at, we'll share that out on our online world, but hopefully you guys can connect offline. And Lara, we're just so thrilled to have been able to connect with you. And so thank you so much. And
thank you for having
thanks
me.
for everyone listening. Yeah, listening to Best of the Tour, and we'll see y'all on the road.
Bye, y'all.
I hope so.
Thanks, Lara.
Bye-bye.
Best of the Tour is presented by Invisible Industries. Find us at www.bestofthettour.com and on all major streaming platforms, including Spotify and Apple Music. You can also catch Erica and Mike on their other podcast, Posters in Every Direction, streaming wherever you stream your podcasts from. A big thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next time.